Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I am Adam Russell.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan Key.
Hey, I'm Nick Gambarian.
Hey, it's Mike Forster, who didn't forget to unmute his mic because we are real podcasters.
I was looking at a thing related to our conversation that made us 10 minutes late, and I forgot to unmute. I'm sorry.
That's Captain, okay. I was at a family barbecue.
Hey,
allegedly.
Has anything happened recently in Star Wars that's been very exciting?
2 episodes of The Bad Batch. I'll call that exciting.
Wow. Yeah, I got to hang out with some old homies today, and it was a good time.
It was a great time. We have a lot to talk about because, like I said, we have 2 episodes that we're covering. We are mid-season, and they gave us a doubleheader. One story in 2 episodes. It's weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it's not weird. Maybe it makes more sense to lay it out like this. But this is like clearly just one story that's too long for 2 episodes. They right. Put it together, and there are things that we kind of inferred about the schedule and it ending around May 4th. But why not just call it like a mid-season special feature or something and make it 40 minutes long?
The only thing I could think of is if they literally have an episode number quota.
And that's what I think. I think it's a contractual thing, and they're bound to the length of episode and all that under contract, and so you just make one long episode and break it up in. It's like when they do the 3-episode premiere or anything like that. It's allows them to, do that story arc. But I mean, I guess you think that's something they would negotiate to say, well, we know that episode 6 and 7 are going to be the same story, so can we put it in the contract that those are allowed to come out the same week? Or do you think it's like a loophole where they sign all the paperwork and they're like, well, watch us make an hour-long episode, even though it's not an hour-long episode, I wonder which one it is.
Yeah. It's like the thing with, what's the thing with albums or with publishing? Do you guys remember this from back in this is something I learned like 20 years ago with, like a double album versus a single album and like how to maximize, and you can only... you only get paid for 10 songs kind of thing, or
that sounds right.
Something like
that. I
think
the 10 songs is why a lot of albums are just 10 songs, because it's everything else after that is just free for them, I guess.
Yeah. Playing the game. Either way, we loved it. We loved the game that they played this week because we got, not to say that last week was light, but it was lighter. We got a lot of action in this one, a lot of great character stuff, great callbacks to stuff in previous seasons and all the way back to the Clone Wars. And overall, I feel like it moved the story forward as much as like the past 2 or 3 or 4 episodes altogether. What do you guys think? Mike, what was your first impression?
Once again, proving this is Crosshair's season,
Yeah.
I think given everything that we know about the Bad Batch as like Hunter, I mean, if you're a fan of Hunter, this is not the season for you. This is a rough one for you, right? But to see Crosshair, his character really start to develop in not only former soldier, not only former Clone Force 99, but now also as kind of Omega's other Overwatcher, right? And there's a couple little details and moments that we'll talk about, but this was just more development for him that shows that this truly is his season, which makes me obviously terrified for the end of this season. And I think we all know what that means, but let's see.
But remain hopeful, even if that's completely just stupid.
Yeah.
Nick, how about you? What were your vibes on this episode?
For some reason, because it was a double episode, I thought it was going to be heavier than it was, but I still think it was very good and heavy in its own way. And I just see it more so as putting the clone chess pieces in place, because it seemed like every clone, like the team that is currently being put together and evolving, that was almost the purpose of these 2 episodes here. Right. So yeah. I thought there would be like a mid-season, like real actual, like holy shit moment, which there wasn't, but I liked it. It was good.
So that reveal of Wolf was supposed to be the
and
over there, right?
I guess I'm thinking more like, oh, that's what Palpatine's doing. Like I want like our confirmation. Like I wanted something like that, but it was great.
Right.
Ryan, feel free to give your overall vibes on the episode, but I want to ask you at the top, have you been noticing in these past 2 episodes, and I feel like maybe once or twice in so far this season, but definitely today, there's a new cue that the Kiners are doing that is so strongly hinting at either the Kylo Ren theme or the First Order theme. Are you hearing that?
There's definitely some new sort of single note synth piece that is very ominous and dark and happen. Yes, they have. I did notice a couple.
Like those 2 main notes, the top notes at the
the score is unreal. Like I episodes like these where confirmed, I think, from here out that we're not doing any side quest type adventure episodes. It seems like
likely.
That's not going to happen. So we're getting that like Final 4 Clone Wars episodes type score every single week, because they are, to your point, Nick, the heaviness, right? Like I was sort of expecting someone to get murdered, death killed this week as well, and it didn't happen. But the score, is heavy all the time this whole season, and I think we've covered enough of their music now in these shows to know that they really like choose these certain arcs where they're gonna get away from the more sort of classical Star Wars orchestral stuff that they do, which is so wild about the Kiners, how they're able to do both things. It's
agreed.
It's very Hans Zimmer-esque, in that they can do this classical stuff and then also branch out into these wild new electronic sounds and things. But this season of the Bad Batch, to me, has maintained the more ominous electronic. I've referenced this all the time when I talk about this on the show, but the Blade Runner kind of vibe,
100%.
Which is just this like haunting ambient tone to it all. Even in the action scenes, you get the orchestral, the horns and stuff, but then there'll be these moments where it all comes back down and someone's like sneaking around behind, and you get this super nasty, distorted synth sound to, hammer home this ominous feeling of the ghost, who I know we have a theory of who that is. I think we're going to talk about on the show tonight.
Absolutely.
But sneaking around behind, it doesn't matter. It'll go from this one high place back down to this really ominous place. The score is incredible. And I did notice that, Adam. But I don't know that I put it together, the Kylo Ren, but I noticed there was something new that was being used in these 2 episodes. But my reaction to the double episode, I agree with Nick. I was kind of hoping for a really big jaw drop moment. But that said, I got so many cool original trilogy and Rogue One vibes from this, with like crashed, burning down ships, and I'm a Dune fanboy, like the Sardaukar vibes coming down from the ships, and just this is dark, dude. It's so, the Bad Batch is going dark right now, and
there was a casual attempt at drowning.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that you guys might have been like, nah, that's not it. But I did for a brief moment, think this is it.
Yeah.
For Crosshair, for sure.
We're going to start just discarding characters. We're getting to the end now, and we're going to shock people, and we're going to, I thought that drowning might have actually happen. And I have one quick sort of just funny thing. I thought really convenient for everyone in these episodes that where those rushing Niagara Falls level currents were flowing, that it was only like ankle deep and you were able to just sort of like walk out of it. That really worked out well for everyone.
Same as Wakanda.
Just deep enough to drown Crosshair, but not deep enough to swim in. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just really, I enjoyed the classic sort of Clone Wars battle nature of these episodes. Good guys versus bad guys. No monsters, just clones fighting
just emotional monsters.
Yeah, well, Batcher.
Yeah.
Good old Batcher. But just clones fighting clones, and where we're leading to. I think you brought up like the amassing sort of army of clones that we've been talking about. The four of us have been talking about for a long time, like wanting this clone uprising to be a part of this story. And I definitely think that the group of clones that Rex had with him in these episodes does not by any means scratch the surface of how many allies he has, recruited. Like whatever force they have in some central location to fight this fight. This was a crew, a dispatching of a unit to go do a mission.
Yeah. Right.
It's the beginning, tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, there's a lot of loss. I loved how they leaned into the Clone Wars and the loss that they've all experienced, and how hurt they are to still be going through that and to be watching their brothers fall in battle. They thought when the war ended that would end, and it clearly has not. There was a lot of talk about that in these episodes, like about loss. We lost on both sides. We lost so many men here today.
Right.
I love that. I love the war element of this that's coming in so strong right now.
Well, let's get into Stolen Plans, because, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Nick, since you are like you're the right dude, you're the rightful heir. The other week when I wasn't here, you just crushed Stolen Plans. So I said,
I got the job.
He really
Nick's
did.
the dude. Nick's the new dude.
You hired.
We're gonna switch some things up and try to kind of like spread it out, because I feel like I just talk too much sometimes.
Oh, okay.
I hope it's
That's
terrible.
me, dude. I talk too much.
This is an intervention.
It's me. I can see you. I can see you being like, "Will you please shut up? Will you please stop?"
We're 12 minutes in, and we haven't even talked about the episode yet.
And then I'll say like one thing and you'll be like, "Oh, that is interesting, actually." Then you'll go back to like, "Okay, no, all right, please, it's time
let's
to
talk
move
about
on."
this for 24 minutes.
So I'm going to lead by example and let someone else talk.
What have you done with those plans?
Infiltration. Episode 6 of The Bad Batch debuted today, March 13th, 2024 on Disney Plus. The Disney Plus description: The Bad Batch reunites with an ally in need. Runtime was 27 minutes, directed by a lot of familiar names here. Stuart Lee, written by Brad Rao, who's also the executive producer. And then the next episode, episode 7, Extraction. The Disney Plus description on that one: as enemies close in, the Batch must evacuate a stronghold. Runtime on that one was 24 minutes, directed by Saul Ruiz, written by Jennifer Corbett and Matt Michnovich. And then we get into the starring roles. Jennifer Hale as Rio Chuchi. She also played Ayla Secura in The Clone Wars and a bunch of other Star Wars voices. Danny Jacobs returns as Senator Singh. Fun little fact here: there are 2 Danny Jacobs on IMDb that have worked on Star Wars. One has done voices in Lego Star Wars, and the other played a lab tech in Mandalorian Season 3. And a fun fact for Adam here is from...
Hello there. He's also from St. Louis, and he's like 2 years younger than me. So I don't know. I feel like
You still got a chance.
there has to be some overlap. Maybe I can meet a Star Wars in the future. We'll
You
see.
can maybe be in a Star Wars.
Yeah.
Never too late.
Continuing with the starring roles, we have Sian Clifford as the Senator Singh's droid, GS-8. She played Claire in Fleabag, starring Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And
Great
Sian
show.
Clifford. Yeah, I actually haven't seen it yet.
Dude, it's
Yeah. But she plays Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character's sister. I loved this one because I noticed it right away. David W. Collins as a stormtrooper. I feel like it was like a prototypical, like everyone has the clone accent, and then all of a sudden there's just one TK who has the most prototypical TK sounding voice, and it was David Collins.
Hey guys, me too.
So that's
Me
great.
too.
Yeah,
I'm a
exactly.
trooper too.
It was so great. And then we get into everything that D. Bradley Baker did. Every single clone. Has he ever done more voices than this one episode?
There were so many times in these episodes where there was like a radio transmission going back and forth, like the asset is moving, and I'm like, he's doing all of that. It's crazy. He like, how do you
actually say that
organize? Like, imagine the call sheet for that.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
Didn't
What a
actually say
talent.
he just does it just
Yeah.
right off the top of his head. He doesn't alternate takes. It's just he just
there was something recently on like the Star Wars YouTube channel where he and Michelle Ang were reading actually maybe they weren't reading a script, but they just had a bunch of toys and they were doing it, and he was just going back and forth through the Bad Batch, like no stopping, no nothing. He was just rifling them off. It was kind of very impressive.
With the list. It's
yes.
long.
Okay. So Rex's clones, a few of them first seen in the Bad Batch season 2, episode 14, The Tipping Point. We got Hauser with the good hair. We have Fireball, who you might recognize with green camo sort of armor, messy helmet, face paint. And then we have Nemec, who has a wavy greenish yellow lines across his helmet. We have Greer, who has green armor accents, who I only really recognize from Hasbro Black Series. Was he a Kashyyyk trooper?
No, you're thinking of Gree.
Gree. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I take it back. And then Samson, who had purple armor accents. So that's a Mace Windu battalion. Yep.
That's right.
Wow.
More to come.
Yes. Okay. And then we have Imperial Clones, the return of Wolf, which we mentioned earlier was kind of the big reveal of this 2-episode arc. We had Scorch, who's a clone commando who we recognize from either season 1 or 2 or both of the Bad Batch. And Hilo, another clone commando, and then the Clone X Troopers, which they are creepy and awesome, and can't wait to learn more about them.
Mysterious.
So with
theories abound.
With the Bad Batch, that is 14 clones, including Rex, for this episode.
And he's just reading the script down the list in one take.
Does he make 14 times more money than everybody else?
That's correct.
I hope so.
Someone at Disney right now is like, guys, this is the best investment we've ever made.
For real. Shout out to that dude. Maybe one day he'll be on the podcast. Let's find out. Let's make it happen.
It is.
Quick little overview. So, like we kind of mentioned before, Rex is assembling the clones. Their main mission right now, this little battalion, if you want to call it that, is to infiltrate Tantus. They're trying to free other clones. It's time. It's happening. Even though all but 2 of them died in this, like, it's happening. The clone uprising is upon us, and we can talk later about the bingo cards and whether or not we get a point for this one. But it's clear that it is happening. So I think we get the point now. So they got this clone base camp on the planet Teth. We've seen that a few times in the Clone Wars. First, all the way back in 2008 in the Clone Wars movie, Rex, Hauser, and the crew are escorting former Separatist Senator Avi Singh from Raxus to a secret meeting with Senator Ryo Chuchi on her home planet of Pantora. They're going to discuss this alliance against the Empire. It's very early days, but they're planting the seeds for that as well. The CX troopers sent to assassinate Senator Singh. Omega's also on the hit list. What is going on there specifically, do you guys think? Like with trying to assassinate the senator? I know there was mention, Ryo Chuchi says the Emperor's concerned about systems opposing him, uniting, all that kind of stuff, but it's really early still. This is like pre-rebellion. There's like not a name for it. There's no proper organization. She even says in this episode there's no leadership. Do you think this is just like an appetizer and we're not meant to read much more into it? That they're just kind of laying the groundwork, or do you guys have any thoughts?
You mean as far as them wanting to off Senator Singh?
Yeah.
The vibe I was picking up on was that they were already separatists and wanted their freedom. So, like in the past, like during the Clone Wars. So I think so. Yeah. That's the vibe I was getting.
That makes sense. So they end up Rex and his crew end up stunning one of the CX troopers who's there to do the assassination. They capture him. They take him back to their base on Teth. Then Hauser and Rex call in the batch to help. They all meet up there. There's, of course, immediate tension between Hauser and Crosshair because of what happened on Ryloth in the past. We saw that all go down when we met Hauser, right? Yeah, that was the very beginning of that. And then there's a discussion. This was interesting. There's a discussion with Omega about what happened on Tantus, and she's kind of explaining it to the other clones. Experiments with Nala Se, M count, and they're like, "Yeah, I think I've heard of that, but I don't know." And
heard it mentioned before, I think is what he said. And
yeah, and then
And
Rex or
only
somebody
one of
says,
them,
what else can you tell us? And then they cut away. You know,
It's
and then
because a couple of years earlier they were calling them midichlorians. They changed the name to M Count.
Oh,
Think about it. Phantom Menace was how many years before this? And they were saying midichlorians.
Oh, that's
rebranding. They didn't get the
Yeah.
memo.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it did give me cool tingly feelings just in general about the Jedi and Clone Wars and all, you know, the idea of it. I've heard it before. Just takes you to a place like, God, these used to be, they used to be the allies of the Jedi, and like that's really, sometimes you forget that's the core of this story when you're watching something sick like the Bad Batch, but that brings you back to what it really is all about, you know.
But it also makes you realize too that the clones, although they fought alongside the Jedi, there were still a lot of things that the Jedi were like, this is for us to know. This is our principle, right? This is the clones. The clones are an army that are helping us win, but they're, you know, for other troopers, it's like, my focus is on fighting. I don't need to know about your religion. I don't need to know about your philosophy. If I ask, maybe, but you know, you it's hard to imagine Anakin Skywalker sitting down with them and being like, now listen, where a Jedi gets his powers might actually be from this thing's called the midichlorians.
Yeah, dude, the grunts just hokey religions, man. That's what
100%, right? We have big blasters. So it's interesting to hear all of them kind of be so confused as to what something as simple as us, for us, the viewers, knowing exactly what that means. It's pretty amazing. But this moment was really cool to see them all kind of trying to figure it out again, as if they're coming up with their own battle plans. Amazing.
Dramatic irony. Finally, somebody reminded me, because I didn't take the time to go back and look. The literary or, you know, screenwriting or anything idea, when there's something that the reader or viewer knows that the characters don't.
Right.
Michael Balonis, thank you on Instagram for reminding me. It's one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. I'm an idiot. I should have paid attention in school. Here I am. I'm grown up. Dramatic irony. Great example of it. So we learned a little bit about these CX clone troopers finally when they're targeting Senator Singh.
They're creepy, man. They're creepy.
They got like a...
I love their armor.
It's like a little Black Panther vibe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was thinking Ant-Man too. I don't know if that's accurate, but I was getting Ant-Man.
I think it's that it's like, so traditionally it's still moving towards the actual identifiers that, you know, we're so used to looking at the clone troopers with the Mandalorian style T-visor, right? And this is moving closer and closer into stormtrooper eyes that looks more like a skull, which is, I think, where they're going with all of the armor at this point. But they're, I don't know, he's slinky.
They were kind of is it weird that I noticed in some shots it was pretty emo, like some like PacSun skinny jeans vibes with that armor too.
Yeah, when he was held prisoner,
sleek.
It came up on the legs.
Sleek.
I was like, yeah, who's this? Is this Paul Atreides with these legs? Who is this?
Are those 5'11s, bro? Those are nice.
So, like I said, we learned a little bit about them. The interesting part, and you know, in episode 6, before we got like the big information dump, when one of the clones from Rex's squad says it's one of those shadows we keep running into. I thought there was
shadows. That's why I said ghosts earlier. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Shadows. That's right.
But Crosshair.
I shouldn't be on a podcast. Just don't give me a microphone.
This will be your last one, but we thank you for being here.
Thank you for your service.
Thank the maker.
Crosshair says, he talks about the secret Imperial program headed by Hemlock. They tried to make him one. Was that wasn't like implicitly put it like in front of our eyes with him when they were recruiting
previously?
Him,
right? No.
Okay.
No.
They erased their identifying numbers, and he says something about like it didn't work on him. So like, is it some kind of like Clockwork Orange style, like prop open the eyelids kind of?
Yeah, maybe.
Psychological.
Could have something to do with his hand too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we learned quite a bit about them. And then just briefly on the Hauser Crosshair conflict. Obviously, Hauser doesn't trust him, like we talked about. But then there's a great moment towards the end because, this is one of like the, 4 or 5 different like subplots in this whole thing is Hauser and Crosshair. There's a moment it's after my favorite quote of the episode, which I'll say later, where Hauser says, it's Crosshair talking to Omega, kind of getting her prepared for, to get out of there. And Hauser says, I've seen how you are with the kid. You're different than you were on Ryloth. So what changed? And Crosshair says,
reading the Crosshair voice.
I can't do that. It's your turn. There you go. You got it.
Oh, seriously? Loyalty meant something to me, but the Empire, it didn't go both ways. I realized how disposable I was.
Get in my van.
Wow. You're hired.
Ooh.
Nick and Mike both getting hired tonight.
Let's
Nice.
go.
And then the big final fight with Crosshair and the CX clone. It's this awesome like sniper versus sniper kind of thing.
Right.
Crosshair still having the hand tremors.
Ooh, is there something in there
makes
though?
It work. And there's a little gem in there. More to come on that. CX says to Crosshair, "You had your chance to be one of us. You chose the wrong side." That mirrors exactly what he said to the rest of the Bad Batch back in, I guess, season 1, right? All the way back at the beginning,
right
towards the end. So we're seeing everything come full circle. He almost drowns Crosshair, like we talked about before, in the shin deep water. And there's a great metaphor there that Alex from Star Wars Explained pointed out.
I liked that. I thought that was a great point.
Yeah, it's like a baptism. Like he almost dies. It looks like he passes out for a second. So it's like he's reborn. Like this is finally this long progression to bring him back. And here he is, rising from the dead in a way.
Well, to see, and like Crosshair has at this point of all between maybe like Hunter's smolder, Crosshair has a scowl, right?
Yeah.
And that's always like, if you go back and watch all these moments, because of course I go back and I watch like old episodes or I watched old moments, and he's always just got that like, he's just naturally upset. He's pissed off about something, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like that was one of the first times where I actually saw him like look scared, panicked, like almost like he came out of
underwater.
That water. Yeah. And when he comes back out, it's almost like he's like, I wasn't expecting to survive.
I think it started before that in that fight. There was a moment where it sort of turned, and you could just tell that he was bested. He was beaten.
Oh, and the knife almost gets him, and he kind of
and then he gets like punched in the gut or something. Yeah. And the noise, the sounds, the noises that the sound design of the fight and the vocalizing that D was doing for Crosshair, it was, you never heard him like beaten in that way, figuratively, literally. You know what I mean? Like emotionally beaten,
right?
Literally beaten. He was. Yeah, I think that scene was really impactful, and I hadn't obviously thought about the baptism. That's why, I don't know, I guess Star Wars Explained is more popular than our podcast because I didn't think of that. But I think that's a brilliant, that's brilliant insight into the scene, because he, even before he went underwater, I remember feeling this tension while watching it, and thinking, wow, Crosshair has met his match, and he knows it. It's one thing to watch it on screen, and then another thing to like sort of internalize it with the character. And that's sort of, I think, what I was doing, in that I was thinking, oh my God, he knows he's going to lose this fight. And that's why I think for a brief moment when he went underwater, I think, Nick and I hoping for everyone on the show to die. I was like, this is it. He really is beaten. He's going to die right here. The lead up to the dunking underwater, the baptism.
There was that,
as you put it, it was brilliant, I thought.
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I just believed that it was happening because none of us saw Tech dying last year. That came out of nowhere. So I was like, oh wait, did he just die? Like, is that?
I know, and I want them to do that
finale. Yeah, right.
I want that thing of like the clones. Clones are disposable. We love these guys, but that's part of the plight of being a clone, is you are disposable. So I want to see them just starting to like lose these characters that we love, because that's what's going to make everything that follows this mean more. Everything they're fighting for, because I don't think they're not going to accomplish like a huge goal here. They're going to the good guys are going to win, air quotes, in some way. But if they all die along the way, and they should, should die, all of them, because that's what being a clone is, and that's, I think, the core of this story. It's like it's why we have this show, is to tell the story of these guys who were born into servitude. They were born to die at the hands of their masters, whether it was the Jedi or now the Empire. And I think that concept of it doesn't matter who. I mean, we are not a political podcast, but look where we are. Just I'm not even gonna get into it. It doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter who's in charge. You're at these types of jobs, soldiers. They're at the whims of these men who are, crave power so
Men
desperately.
in boardrooms.
And that's I think, man, I think that's why to your point, like Nick, I was like, die, yes, die, Crosshair. Because I think that makes the story more meaningful, because they're clones. They're supposed to die. Am I right? I mean, you know what I mean?
Hey,
The part
you won't be disappointed. I feel like they're teeing it up for an even better thing.
I know. And even if they ride off into the sunset, I'm going to be happy, because I've loved every minute of this show.
Sure.
But if they go out in a blaze of blaster fire, I'm going to be so pumped, because that's
also awesome.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Sure.
They're going to, go out protecting Omega in the final scene. Her and Wrecker leave in the ship or whatever, but like, I was hoping that was it for Crosshair, selfishly, because I just think it's poetic. It's how it should be.
The part that made me believe that they might have done it was the fact that we got this beautiful little moment where he tells Omega, he gives her dad advice. The woods are really easy to get lost in, and you need to stay close. And she looks over and she's like, you're worse than Hunter. And he's like, I'm way worse, because it's like, he's like, I'm going to out dad Hunter. I'm going to love you harder than Hunter ever loved you. And I was like, oh no. I get, like, as a dad, right? You want to prove to your kid that you're like, yeah, it's going to be hard, and I'm going to teach you. And this is going to be part of the lessons of like why you come to appreciate me eventually at some point. And I'm going to know that I gave you good lessons to help you survive. And I was like, oh no, Crosshair is going to die.
Dude, I have chills. I have chills. Because what is Omega's role in the bigger story now? Because if they teach her all this and they all die and set her free,
that's what Rex is trying to find out, man.
I love it, man.
Well, don't lose sight too of, like, there was a good amount of time spent in season 2 making you like tech, just so they could
100%.
Yep,
they're doing that with Crosshair.
100%, dude.
I know.
If any of them are gonna die, if we don't get like the sort of dark and maybe a little weird desire to have them all die, literally just murder, death, kill every one of them, Crosshair's going down. You're going down, bro. I'm sorry, bro. You're out.
Right.
Can we also really quick? We've talked about the Shin Deep Water. For those of you that like design and stuff, can I just the music is more my thing, not necessarily the figuring out how the light refracts off of a mountain because of this new engine that they're using. That's your thing. That water looked unreal.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Delicious.
Well, I guess it looked real, which made it look unreal. Super cool. Animation was
the mist
the water
and everything. Yeah.
Man, I noticed. You know what I mean? I just noticed it. Yep. It was made an impact. Like, wow, this looks incredible.
Yep.
Maybe it was salt. Shout out to anybody who gets that.
They wanted to hammer home that baptism thing. That's really. I wish I would have thought of that.
Dude, and ultimately, like, they want to rip our hearts out as hard as they possibly can. So killing him in that moment wouldn't have been enough. They have to fully redeem him, give him another chance, give us the impression that maybe everything's going to be cool, and then rip our hearts out.
Yeah, that's how I'd want it done.
That's how it's going to be.
Go ahead, murder me hard.
He makes he makes up with Hauser at the end.
My
Hauser
kids listen to this podcast.
Hauser saves his life. Redemption. It's great. Speaking of transformations and redemptions, we're seeing the beginning of Wolf's transition away from the Empire. Because again, dramatic irony. We know ultimately he's going to be good. We see him in Rebels, even though he's the last one to hold on to the little bit of like loyalty to the Empire, or at least the fear of it.
Right.
But he's at odds with the CX from the beginning. These aren't insurgents; these are clones. This throws back to early dark stuff with clones kind of being turned against each other. What's the Jedi, the worst one?
Ponkrell.
We hate that guy.
What do we say about Ponkrell? It's a kid's podcast.
There's a big F word.
Yep, that's right.
Fudge that guy.
Or ordering the troopers to only use stun. He towards the end, they end up the batch is at the rendezvous point where they're going to get picked up by Echo, but then Wolf and all his folks land, and there's this big standoff, and it's like it's just like the meme that everybody makes, like of in A New Hope in Mos Eisley, like they act like, one of the troopers is one of the clones, and it's like,
Cody? Right?
Cody?
No? How are you, bud? Yeah.
It's just like that. But they have a great moment where, Rex says, "I thought you were dead. Reports said you were killed in action, that you went down aboard an attack cruiser." He said, "I did." Of course, that's the Siege of Mandalore. Great callback. Rex tries to kind of like clue him in on what the Empire's doing, tries to reason with him and convince him that he needs to join him.
Wolf knew, man. As soon as he saw Rex, he was like, "Oh no, there's something else going on here, and I don't like it."
He's like, "Think about it. You're hunting a child." And ultimately, he doesn't go with them, but he lets them go. He orders his troopers to stand down. And then once they're gone, Wolf orders them to gather their fallen, all of the dead clones. And the other trooper says, "But sir, they're traitors." And Wolf says, "Perhaps, but they're clones. We owe them that." Again, crying about clones in a cartoon.
Is it the writing incredible? The way they're able to do something like that scene, and you don't have to know anything about the Siege of Mandalore to understand what's going on. Yeah. I mean, the relationships they've created between these characters, most people probably don't know that Wolf and Rex, most people probably don't know that. But a scene where one soldier says to another soldier, "I thought you went down." Right. "I did go down." It works, and it continues to propel the story forward without having to know all the backstory. And then for nerds like us, it's just the coolest, Easter eggs and fan service and all those things. I love that.
Layers.
It's like it's kind of like Wolf's moment to kind of have that. I mean, last time Wolf knew of Rex, right? He knows that the cruiser goes down, it crashes, and everybody dies on board. But the two people that survived quite literally gather the bodies, even though they're traitors, that we owe them that, right? And that's Ahsoka standing there among all the 332nd with Rex over by the Y-Wing, letting kind of understand exactly what happened. It's like for Wolf to kind of have that moment and get it. That's what I'm saying. As soon as he saw Rex, it was like, okay, something's up. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Dang, this show.
I feel like we're gonna make the show. Sorry, Nick. I'll go quick. Make the show take 3 hours tonight. But there's something about in the inhibitor chips and what we're talking about right now. They're like they caused they made them force them to do these things, but did they completely alter their mind and their personality to not be able to recognize situations and relationships and whatever? It wasn't a memory wipe. Down the road. So you have an encounter like this, and even though they are fighting for the Empire because they feel like the program to fight for the Empire, when you run into your bro, if we're in the apocalypse and I see you guys and I've done terrible things to survive, I'm gonna cry and I'm gonna hold you and I'm gonna say, "You're my boy. I was gonna eat you.
Don't go in the back red room.
I remember you. We had a podcast once 20 years ago." Right. So I think that's really interesting that the clones, the humanity of the clones being brought to life in that way of like, yes, we've done these terrible things, but I recognize you, and you are my brother.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
There was just one awkward moment where that went completely unrecognized in the show, but when Rex was talking to Wolf, and Rex said something like, "Open your eyes," and then it just showed Wolf and he's got like one eye. I'm like, that's not it's like, come on, man.
Oh my god. Open your eye.
Too soon.
Ooh, sorry, man. I know that was a little Open your eye.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean theme
no
plays.
One's gonna say anything? Okay.
Oh god,
he can't, sir.
It just reminds me of Rogue One when he puts the bag on Chirrut's head.
Are you
totally.
kidding? I'm blind.
I'm blind. Yeah, that's great.
Oh man, that's.
And then the final conversation, Rex and Hunter on the ship. Rex says to Hunter, "I can't just walk away, and neither can you." Talking about, Hunter's basically saying that you can't take on the Empire; it's too big, right? And Rex goes on to say, "I think she's vital to whatever they're doing on Tantus, Omega, of course. And if you want to keep her safe, you need to find out why she's so important to them." So that tees up the next episode and the second half of the series, or the season, rather.
Does she have the Force or not?
Please, something like that.
Well,
it's a version. It's something, but we'll find out.
It's either the boring version that's like her blood it just works out, or it's the exciting version. And again, like I said, final episode, she's gonna just hold a boulder up from crushing Wrecker to death or something.
That's what we want.
I think it's probably the first one, but we'll see.
Yeah, her body's just a container. That's it.
Correct.
Right.
It's a clone. That's the plight of a clone. They're made to serve a purpose.
Right.
The actual final scene or final moment, we see that the CX clone assassin lives. The second one, he survived the fall.
Why is that? Why do you think he lived?
It's a good question. Why
tell
this
the
specific
listeners.
one?
Oh boy.
And it's also, there's some details, like he's trying to use his comms, they're malfunctioning. He's by himself.
His shoulder is right racked.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who is he? That's the question. More in the Den of Antiquities. We won't try to answer it right now. Speaking of, Mike's segment.
For over 1,000 generations.
It is the dark saber, Torgon. Oh gosh.
It's a Calicori.
A Sith wayfinder.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
I like not having a segment. Just by the way. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. The Den of Antiquities is rather deep today, as you could imagine.
We're throwing a party in here.
In this
What kind of
particular
party? In the
two episodes, okay? So for a first, let's start it off cute, right? Omega is chewing on a toothpick just like Crosshair. So this is either a little throwback to the fact that
I do that. I do that too.
Like Crosshair and Nick Ambarian at Bayside, it's truly an incredible. It's a cute little thing, but also it's kind of one of those things where it's like as she kind of picks up on more of the clones, and we've also said that we've speculated that she has a little bit of their abilities. If you remember all the way in season 1, she's like, I don't know how to shoot like that, but you did pretty good, kid. She's chewing on a toothpick just like Crosshair. So new dad, she's picking up, it's rubbing off. You know what I mean? So Echo gives Omega this new crossbow, which is pretty cool. And it's not like the Zygerian one that has the big, the big shoulder forearm piece. It's small. Adam, you're looking for what kind of planet is it from? What does it look like to you? But it's got this, it's convenient. It almost has the Chewie like crossbow, crossbolt style to it with the resonators on the side. It's cool.
Yeah, and the gold detail.
Yeah.
But it's also the laser thing, so it has that Zygerian feel.
Right.
But, there's the quote from, is it Echo that gives it to her, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Says, I've made a few interesting contacts across the galaxy.
Which I like that. So Echo's like, I'm packing. Here, it's yours. Go ahead and shoot someone's eye out, kid. CX Assassin ship. This is a new ship. I've never seen this before. I like this style. Kind of looks like a Dorito. I'm into it. But it actually, when I first saw it, I'm like, that feels like an old Jedi cruiser, like in its style and its kind of triangular, short, stubby style, like a Jedi starfighter. I thought that was a pretty cool little throwback with the pseudo Star Destroyer lines on the back of it that glow red. Very
a little bit like Maul's ship.
Yep.
In a way as well.
Yep. The scimitar or whatever it was called. And then the escape vehicle that this thing was like so slow that you could shoot it down with a blaster bolt from a rifle. Like, that's just an unfortunate vessel you're trying to escape with. I think that is that the Leechcraft from season 2 of the original ship that Rex flies in on.
That's what I gathered.
Yeah.
From a very little research.
Yep. That makes sense. So some decorative details in the buildings, that Rex's base kind of looks like those seen in Galaxy's Edge. It almost has that Jabba's palace kind of a style to it. We've seen that a lot in Star Wars, that kind of like round. It could very well seem like it was picked right out of Batuu, which I like. And of course, what would be Star Wars without a Wilhelm scream? Did you hear it? Did everyone hear it?
Oh, I heard it, baby.
Yeah, it was great.
Heard it.
Yep. So when the bat shoots out the Imperial shuttle, a trooper falls out with the classic Wilhelm scream that we've.
I thought they were retiring that, and there's a new one, right? Wasn't that a thing?
Yeah, but this is old classic Weequay flying
sounded
off
like
the skiff.
Well, Luke and Leia come, trying to wire across the.
Yep.
Sounded like that.
Yep.
It's not one
exactly.
sample though. Like if you pull, you could probably search on YouTube and find like a compilation. It's all the same style, but there are a few, but it goes back like 80 years or something.
There's a few Wilhelms. Is what we're getting.
The Wilhelm family.
Right.
The Wilhelm.
The Wilhelms are very busy.
Wilhelm.
In Foley in Hollywood. So let's talk a little bit about the colors on the clone troopers' armors, because I think some people, we kind of went through those a little bit at the top of the hour. But in Attack of the Clones, the colors represented clone officer ranks. So there were traditionally green for sergeants, blue for lieutenants, red for captains, and yellows for commanders. Certain characters like Wolf and Cody had actual markers, designations on their armor. Not all of them had that. In Revenge of the Sith, clones all wore the ranks that had painted trims. So canon and legends indicate that the meaning behind the clone colors had changed by this point, but rather than rank, they now refer to what division a clone belongs to, which is your 501st Legion, which is blue, orange for the 212th, which is Cody, and then you have like the 187th, like Mace Windu. So that's how they would designate those clones. You had the Coruscant guards with the red. They had a very specific job.
Can I just Mace Windu's regiment is the 187th?
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's bad mother. Right. So
I knew that until this moment, and man, am I pleased.
They should have been blood red, because everyone knows that for a little designer joke out there, that Pantone 187 is blood red, and these streets will certainly be painted CMYK. So green accents are the 501st Elite Corps. That's Greer's color, which is not to be confused with Gree, who also has the shiny. He's the one that you were talking about, Nick, that kind of has that. He's almost got like the traditional European style camouflage, and
it's green armor, right? Am I thinking correctly? It's not white with green accents. It's green armor.
Yeah, it's silver. Yeah, it's silver, and then his visor is actually like a tinted green. It's kind of interesting. It's pretty cool. And then we have like the greenish teal. That is what Hauser has, which not green, it's not blue, it's a proper teal. And then we've got Namek has a greenish teal shoulder pauldrons, antenna on the left back, which is kind of what Wolf has. So we've got a couple different troopers in here, which I think is really cool. But obviously what it's getting at is the fact that they're plucking clones from whoever survived, and they were all able to meet up. So it's cool to kind of see them in this Skittle formation. What's interesting about this is the purple. Let's talk about the 187th real quick. Mace Windu's clone unit was originally called the 187th Legion, which featured the purple markings for his lightsaber. And according to the story group, the Clone War producers decided against using this color scheme when designing Clone Commander Pons in Season 1, Episode 21 for Liberty on Ryloth. And instead used maroon markings, which carried over to the design of Windu's clone troopers in the Bad Batch arc. So if we all remember our best friend, our Wraith, Robbie, telling us a little bit about why his medallion was purple, which he found in a little story. He told us the story about how he made that up, because it blew our minds that he actually read it in a children's book about Mace Windu being on Ryloth once. And so he was like, purple lightsaber, purple necklace, Mace Windu's our guy. And we hook, line, and sinker. I was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever experienced. And then of course, now we're going to get into it. Theories inbound of who is the CX Shadow. Okay. Now, the internet is already screaming. People are very upset about this, but there is an indicator that Crosshair's last conversation that he has before I think he really starts to try to double down when he talks to another clone about what happens. That clone happens to be none other. He tells him, I don't recognize you because your sweet armor is gone and they stole all your personality and they put you in this weird gray commander kit. That would be Commander Cody. If you remember, in the solitary clone, Commander Cody and Crosshair actually team up and they go after some commander battle droids, and they make good work of them and they go through it. And the one thing that Cody does when he realizes he's kind of outnumbered is he pulls out this vibro knife, and it's pretty dang cool. And it's a black blade, and it's got these yellow markings, and that is from a solitary clone in season 2. It's got a short stubby handle, and it glows yellow, and it's fully illuminated. The one thing that this new guy does after he's a pretty good shot is pull out a knife and goes after him. Now, the official story, when we find out where Cody went, when Rampart tries to tell Crosshair why Cody wasn't assigned to him, is that he went AWOL. So Rampart either had no idea that there was a clone reconditioning program that was a lot more like A Clockwork Orange, but there certainly is something suspicious about the fact that when we know that Rex hears about Cody, that he freaks out a little bit when we see him in Rebels. Something happened to Cody. To take a character like Commander Cody and say that he went AWOL is either them not telling Rampart because they knew what was going to happen to Rampart. They had to get rid of him. He's a contingency plan. But to go AWOL for Commander Cody, I'm not buying it. Right? Rex needs...
You're being very unFiloni.
That's right. Rex needs someone to be opposite of him. I feel like Cody was that guy. So anyways, that's interesting. Now, the other theory, of course, is that Crosshair was actually, they took parts of him to try to clone more of Crosshair's special abilities, because this, in many ways, they both fight the same, and he's a damn good shot. Actually, kind of how Crosshair used to be. So either they are full on into clone mode of the Bad Batch themselves. Crosshair was a pretty loyal clone and obviously had high skills. But I don't know. That's a working theory, and I think that would actually be pretty deep, especially if now the clones could also be no one. They could just be exactly this role, and that could be fine. But I think for a lot of people, if Cody was one of the guys, oof, that's a that would be vicious.
Here's the thing to consider. Here's the thing to consider,
though. Unlikely that it's not an important character for him to pop out of the water at the end. I mean, that is what it is.
That's the thing. For sure. But it being Cody, if the evidence is this knife, here are two things to consider. I'm going to go full screen with this again. So there's the shot from...
the knife is different.
The knife is different.
It is
different. It's a vibroblade. It's whatever. Here's the thing. This clone, this CX clone, does not bring this knife with him. He pulls it off of this clone that he killed.
Oh, good point. Okay. I like this. But he knows how to use it pretty dang well.
Doesn't mean that it's not Cody.
Ooh.
Yeah. The thing to consider is...
It just explains why it's a different blade.
Is it glowing orange or yellow?
Nice. Nice. Everything's like it for a reason.
If you go to Wikipedia, though, and you look at Vibro Knife, the list of appearances is like this long.
Okay, so
and
a lot
for
of people
listening, it's a whole ass page.
Sure.
So it's kind of a standard weapon for clones, it seems like.
Right.
I don't remember seeing it that much.
Right.
But I don't know.
It's interesting. But there's something about the fact that there's something about like the CX didn't totally vibe with Wolf. He was pretty much going rogue. But there's something about the fact that Crosshair and Cody had the last time we saw Cody was talking to Crosshair.
Very
so
true.
there
I
is
want it to
something.
be Cody, dude. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
I want it to be him.
Right. So
And if
I
they're
don't know.
bringing Wolf back and all, like,
Yeah, dude, he
Cody's
climbed out of the
there.
water.
Got to get
It's
in
someone
here.
important. You don't the assassin doesn't survive if there's not someone we know there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just let the episode be over and they got away.
It's actually the Winter Soldier from Marvel, and this is where the crossover starts, which is crazy. So,
Finally,
I
the
love
crossover.
canon.
Yeah,
I love canon.
and that's it. So that's the den. It's pretty deep today. I like it.
Thank you, Mike. All right, let's talk about bingo card results. We actually got some hits, I feel like, maybe. So
Absolutely.
the purple, let's start with Mike's prediction about Mace Windu's 187th clones. Let's just give you this point, despite the fact that if you actually go look at, like, I think the best reference is the Black Series, Nick, which you probably have.
Yep.
The actual layout of the color is different.
Sure.
But we see 2 or 3 clones in this episode that have purple with different arrangements. So I don't know. I think it's a hit.
I feel like we should be liberal with the with a lot of these.
Yeah.
Sure.
For fun.
It's not a political podcast, Nick.
Wow. Come on, Nick. Get it together.
Careful. Too much politics.
Just
We
lost,
can't be too
just lost a
conservative
listener.
with our bingos.
Mike also got a hit for Ryochuchi appearing.
Yep.
Nick gets one for Hauser's appearance.
Knew that.
Then Mike, you and I both had just Wolf and Gregor.
Yeah.
No further elaboration, no specificity about appearance on screen.
Blanket statement.
Or mention, just Wolf and Gregor.
Yep.
Gregor is mentioned twice in the episode.
Right.
Once Hunter says to Echo, I thought your rendezvous with Gregor was top priority. I'll pick him up after dropping you lot off. So we're going to see him, we assume. But I think this gets us the point today. I don't know.
I agree. I fully agree with that.
Do it.
Patreon had Wolf appearing as one of their squares.
Yep.
Mike, Nick, and I also all had Clone Trooper Rebellion. Is it too early to make that call?
That's it. They're active. Come on.
I think it's early.
That's not how. This definitely is not my my definition of what I put on the bingo card.
But the point is that if they are rebelling from what the Empire wants them to do, they are rebelling. And
And group of clone troopers are
Can I
rebelling.
just shout out to everyone on Instagram that follows our podcast that I didn't get any hits, but I did win the poll. I won the preseason poll.
That's true.
So if I get no hits, I won something.
That's true.
Hey,
That's all. I just thank you guys for your. Thanks for giving me that win. You know.
hey, we all had No Adventure of the Week podcast. You're still on track to get that one.
Yep.
You also have Hunter Survives. He's still alive. He survived another episode.
He's
You're on
going
track
to.
there.
Yeah.
And then this episode, or at least, 6, not 7, kind of ended with no music, which is on your card. There's like a long
my
pause.
card was credits though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't remember how you specified.
Yeah. And we got to give a
when you know, when Wrecker die, when something really gnarly happens, it's going just credits roll, no sound.
Silence.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my.
I like that.
Okay.
We've
So
got
what
to
was
give
your-
for patrons Physics Buddy Joe. I always like, because I always go on to check it in the morning after I watch, and usually Joe has already assigned who won and got all that stuff. So shout out to Physics Buddy Joe. He's got a good eye. He's been helping us tab along on this thing.
Dedication.
I think the thing that I look at with bingo is I don't play strategically. Like there's ones that I felt more confident when we were picking all of these, and I was like, I should have put those in a straight line down with the through the center, right? That's what everyone does. And I just put them everywhere. I'm like,
mine's a crime scene.
Like, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. So next time, Acolyte. Let's do it again for Acolyte. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, ready to get 0 on that. There will be a Jedi score.
There will be a lightsaber.
All right, let's do I Love You, I Know. And before we get into it, patrons in the chat, give us your favorite quotes, your favorite moments, whatever you like.
I got some ready to go.
Sick.
I love you.
I know.
Favorite moments, favorite quotes, favorite scenes. Ryan Key, how about you go first?
Mine is very unique and specific. I felt like throughout these 2 episodes, there wasn't a bomb drop moment, really. Like, it was cool to see all the old pals together again. But as much as I enjoyed the episodes, as I mentioned, for just the straight up sort of war, Clone Wars feeling of it, the battle, I didn't feel like there was one scene or like quote that really I loved, their clones. What was he say? They're clones, we owe them that much or something,
Right.
I loved that, but there was a moment where I was like, oh dude, I know exactly what that feels like. So I'm a very avid Call of Duty Warzone player, and there is no greater feeling in gaming. Sure. I'm gonna just go there because I wanted to go a little more intense than that.
That's a big statement, though.
I don't want to upset my family and the people I love. There's no greater feeling in gaming than sniping a fool straight out of a helicopter.
That's true.
Dude's flying by, one shot down, falls to his death. Helicopter explodes. It's the greatest thing. When Crosshair sniped that dude through the windshield, all of my greatest Call of Duty memories of sniping helicopter pilots flashed before my eyes. Love Crosshair.
Crosshair's back.
That was my favorite moment. That was my favorite moment. Yeah, Crosshair, if you're listening to the pod, let's squad up. Let's squad up. Verdansk is coming back at the end of the year.
I'd love to be in your crew.
You hired.
Mike, your turn. Favorite moment, quote, whatever.
Honestly, the probably one of the most G moves in this whole 2 episode arc was when the assassin throws a thermal dent out and Rex doesn't run from it. He literally runs to it and chucks it back.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, Rex is good at what he does. Like, in every
also a really good feeling in Call of Duty when you time that RB throw back, but right.
100%.
It's a good feeling.
Right. And then the guy's like, this guy must be cheating because there's no way anybody's that good.
Yeah, he's hacking. He's hacking his balls off, as we say.
Right. There's no way this guy is Captain Rex. There's no way. So I thought that was a great little moment. But I think all in all, this arc, every time the clones start to realize that the Empire is lying to them, it is like Christmas morning, because there is a really awesome and powerful moment, I think, as more clones are being added to this pseudo rebellion as it's happening, that I loved. That there was the same moment of when Din Djarin sees the helmet get taken off of the Marshal and realizes he is not Mandalorian, he is not Boba Fett, and like Brendan or whoever was in the suit at the time, like, has this like shocked, subtle little reaction.
Yeah,
and
it's like the Tom DeLonge gif from the video.
Yeah, right, from First Date, right? But when Wolf realizes that Rex, who's so well respected among the Republic Army, that he's not dead, and that moment for him, just it settles in that he's like, I don't like what's going on here. Like, that is that was probably the heaviest moment of it, especially knowing what he said after. I kind of said it already in the podcast, but just like the fact that, he was like, pick up the clones. They're not traitors. They're our brothers, because we're all going to be traitors here real soon. So I thought that was probably, that conversation between the two of them was probably and all the action is awesome, but like, I think that was probably my favorite interaction from this 2 episode arc for sure.
Sick. Nick, how about you split us with some Patreon comments, then do yours and mine?
Love that. Okay, so Sith Lady says the tiny little nod from Wolf to Rex, which we all saw. But building off of that comment, Kai East says the whole confrontation between Rex and Wolf, knowing that Wolf held on to his morals, inhibitor chip and all, through the whole episode, and was able to be convinced of letting the chipless clones go, capping it off with the exchange, which we mentioned earlier. The commando saying, "But sir, they're traitors," and Wolf saying, "Perhaps, but they're clones. We owe them that." Maddie Gunner says, favorite moment, Rex throwing the grenade back through the bars at the CX operative, like Mike mentioned. Let's see, let me try to get some other people in here. Great screen name again, great handle. I am Godzilla and you are Japan, whoever you are.
Nice.
I love the Shadow Trooper armor. If I ever take the plunge into building my own suit, this is what I would make. I was hoping it'd have a little bit more light on it to look like Tron. Very cool. Definitely was getting Tron vibes just on the way it was worn. Let's see. Stacy Leanne, for all the work she does in our Discord. She says her favorite scene was it was a tie between Mom Echo giving Omega her new energy crossbow, little salutes to each other, and then also
have a little violence.
Yeah, right. And Hunter defending Crosshair from Hauser. You're gonna have to back down, Captain. Pretty badass moment.
Lit. How about you, Nick?
I'm going to go with a silly one, like I think I did last week. Did I say last week was like a little Batcher thing, right? This week was also another Batcher thing where he was just part of the clone crew when they went to attack, and like everyone's shooting around him and he just jumps on like a TK soldier or something. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're doing your part. I love it. I love the dog moments.
Dude, and then when they meet with...
I loved eggs.
with Wolf's crew, when they're at the extraction point or whatever, and they're all illuminated by the door, the opening from the shuttle,
right?
And they're all in like their like boy band pose. It's like the full crew and Batcher's in his stance, Yeah, it's sick. It's so good. My favorite, Mike already said it. It's a funny one, but I think it's Crosshair's first like real joke in a way. When he's asking Omega if she's good, does she have all of her stuff? It's dangerous out there in the woods or whatever, and she says you're as bad as Hunter, and Crosshair says, "Oh, I'm much worse." I feel like it was a genuine joke, and I laughed.
Right.
I laughed at the cartoon. I loved, of course, like Mike, like you were saying, anytime a clone or a group of clones have their eyes opened, that's an amazing moment. So that's probably second for me, but
sure,
I just loved that line. I thought it was amazing.
Yep.
Reborn. Now he's a funny guy. Sense of humor. Might even get rid of the toothpick. Who knows?
Oh, nice.
Now he's into Chew.
Oh yeah.
Or Skull Bandits.
I prefer Big Chief.
All right, we are wrapping it up. Like and subscribe. Do it. Press all the necessary buttons. Do all the things that people tell you to do that they bother you about. Do that for us, please. Follow us on socials. And if you like the show, repost. You don't have to be a patron. If you want to be a patron, that's awesome. But if you just want to share, whether it's something that we post or a clip from the show, or just a screenshot of you listening, you want to put that in your stories or wherever you share things on social media, please do that. It helps. And leave a review. Rate and review. Do that. Do all that stuff. It's helpful. Thank you very much. We do have news coming up very soon, this month. A pretty big thing that it won't affect anyone who currently listens in any way that... I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to spoil anything.
Nice.
Fun stuff
Didn't say anything, made people freak out. Nice job. Yeah,
wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're quitting. We're switching to Star Trek.
That's right.
You know what? Never mind.
You guys, hey, check this out. You ready? Forget it. Forget it. All right. I love you guys, and I can't wait to talk about what we're going to talk about when we hit end on this thing. And until next week, may the Force be with you.